Is it possible to freeze dry different cheeses for long-term storage? Hi, I'm Kylene, and I'm the Provident Prepper. One of the most exciting prospects of owning a freeze dryer for me was the ability to freeze dry meat and cheeses long-term in my food storage, because that is definitely something that we have been missing. Now, in this video, I'm going to try and freeze dry a variety of different shredded cheese that we picked up and see whether or not it really works and see if this investment is worth the money. I placed these bags of cheese in the freezer as soon as we got home from the market. So they are frozen, and we're gonna put them on the trays and then stick them in the freeze dryer. Each of these bags are 2.5 pounds of cheese, shredded cheese. And I was hoping that I could get a bag on each tray, but it looks like I am going to be sorely disappointed. So in this first batch, I will do Parmesan cheese and how about the mozzarella cheese? And then I'll stick those back in the freezer, and the next run will be the yellow cheeses. Okay, I have my Parmesan cheese and my mozzarella cheese. Now it's time to go put them in the freeze dryer and see how they turn out.
This batch was shredded cheese, and it took 1,233 minutes, so less than a day to accomplish, and it only took 10.39 kilowatt hours, so actually shorter and less money than most batches. So this batch of cheese, it's very solid, very brittle, so I think we're fully done. Time to pull it out. We just pulled this cheese out of the freeze dryer. We have some mozzarella here, we have some Parmesan here. The mozzarella seems a little drier, and it's very flaky, and it didn't stick to the pan. The Parmesan, on the other hand, is pretty stuck together and pretty stuck to the pan. We're going to package these cheeses for long-term storage. We're going to put the Parmesan in the smaller bags. These are pint-sized bags because we don't use as much of those at a time. If we're making a pizza or something, we use a lot of mozzarella, so we're going to put those in the quart-size bag.
So I love the Parmesan. So we're going to put a nice healthy little layer of Parmesan here on this ravioli. And then some mozzarella. It's beautiful. It looks just like normal. It just feels just a little bit different. And then I'm going to put a little tent on this because I don't want the top sticking to the cheese, and slide it in the oven. This is the ravioli with the freeze-dried cheese on top. It looks like it melted really nicely and rehydrated. Making pizza from your food storage is incredibly simple if you just know how to do it and you have some freeze-dried cheese to put on top. So we're gonna start out, we take a cup of flour and we are going to put it in our mixer, and a tablespoon, well, just shy of a tablespoon of yeast, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I always like pink Himalayan salt. And then this is totally optional, but this is some pizza spice. And you don't need very much, just a little tiny bit, but it gives it a fantastic flavor. And then in my water, I like to add about 2 tablespoons of oil. And some of you are gonna hate this because I'm definitely a dumper and not a measurer. Drives my husband crazy. And a little bit of honey, not very much, just maybe a teaspoon or 2. And I'll just stir that around. This is hot water. It's about 3/4 of a cup. And I'm gonna start the mixer just so that the yeast and everything can mix in. And then I'm just gonna dump this in there. We have our pizza dough inside of this glass dish, which has been sprayed with an oil so that it doesn't stick, because remember, I like my dough to be just a little bit sticky. And then we're gonna let it raise in a nice warm place until it's double. The really cool thing about bread is that all the ingredients are shelf stable. Okay, our bread dough has just about doubled. And what I like to do is work directly on my countertop. It's always clean and sanitized, so I don't have any issues with that. I'm just going to dump this beautiful pizza dough out on the counter, and I'm going to just like that. And then this, we want just a little bit of oil on it. And I'm just gonna roll it out. I don't really care about the shape too much because I'm going to pull it up and stretch it. And you see how it's nice and moist? Sometimes that makes the dough just a little bit harder to work with, but in the long run, to me, it makes it so much better because it's really light and fluffy. And see how easy it is for me just to push it around? Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is just to poke some random holes in it, because I don't want all those huge bubbles that happen in pizza dough to displace my toppings. So not a big deal, just some random holes. Then, remember shelf stable? So cans of pizza sauce are great, but most of the time what we have in our storage is just pasta sauce, just spaghetti sauce. Now we've got our mozzarella cheese that we rehydrated. And it's still just a tad bit dry, but it feels moist most of the way through. And then here is my Parmesan cheese, because I really love the flavor of Parmesan. So here we have this beautiful pizza completely from food storage, and we're gonna pop it in the oven in just a minute. This gorgeous pizza is completely from food storage. We have all of our stored ingredients that we made the crust with, and then we had canned spaghetti sauce, and then the freeze-dried cheese. I'm beginning to think that the cheese alone is a great reason for us to have gotten a freeze dryer. So now comes the true test to see. Now, okay, I'm a cheese lover. John doesn't like cheese at all.
Well, it's not that I don't like it. It just doesn't like me very much.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, should I give you a napkin first?
Nah.
All right.
I ever needed one of those before. Ready?
So hold on. Let's see. My cheese came up.
Pretty stinking good.
Really good. Okay. So we're supposed to be critically evaluating this, right? When I'm tasting the cheese, gotta remember I put heavy Parmesan on it, right? The cheese is completely melted. It tastes really good. Would fresh cheese taste better? Can you tell any difference?
Not really, to me. This is really good.
So I would conclude that freeze-dried mozzarella cheese and freeze-dried Parmesan cheese, definitely something we need to have in our food storage. While the freeze dryer was defrosting, we packaged all of the Parmesan and mozzarella cheese into these bags. And now I pulled the mild cheddar and the cheddar jack cheese out of the freezer, crumbled them up, and divided the 2.5 pound bag between two trays. That just seems to be like the perfect amount of cheese for these trays. I think it's not too much, not too little.
This was the bags of cheddar cheese in the freeze dryer right now. It took 1,394 minutes, so almost one day, and about 11.7 kilowatt hours.
We just took the shredded cheddar cheese and the shredded cheddar jack cheese out of the freeze dryer. It has done a beautiful job of freeze drying. It's nice and dry. I think it's absolutely perfect. So what we're gonna do is fill a couple of Mylar bags, and we're we're also gonna fill some jars so that we can rehydrate and experiment with this cheese. 1 tray of this shredded cheese filled up 1 quart-size Mylar bag. We put an oxygen absorber in here, and then we are going to seal it using the impulse sealer. Now, this is packaged and ready for long-term storage. It is an incredibly easy process. So each tray yielded about a quart-size bag of the shredded cheese, along with the pints that have oxygen absorbers in them for long-term storage. And we are going to experiment with these. It doesn't take very much water to rehydrate the cheese. So we want to dump just a little bit of water in here, maybe a little bit more. And then we're going to shake this up. We want to make sure that there's not water left on the bottom, but that it appears that everything's gotten wet. So that looks good to me. We'll leave it alone and let it rehydrate for a little while. And then the same thing here with the cheddar. And the reason we're reconstituting this is because we're gonna use it right now to make some grilled cheese sandwiches. Otherwise, I would leave it unconstituted, I'd leave it dried until we were ready to use it, or within the week, right? Because you could do this, put it in the fridge for a week, and it'll stay perfectly good and you can use it all week long. Okay, we're gonna give it a few minutes and let it rehydrate. Okay, so I'm gonna make some grilled cheese. And we have some freeze-dried avocado left over from an experiment that we did earlier this week. And we had just put the extra in a Ziploc bag in the fridge. But I thought a grilled cheese with avocado sounds fantastic. So I'm just going to pour just a little bit of water on this. Give this a chance to rehydrate a bit. The rehydrated cheeses are definitely not as beautiful as the fresh cheese. I'm going to use olive oil in this pan instead of buttering the bread because we are doing a food storage activity, right? Where everything is from our stored foods. So I will just put that down first, and then I'm going to put all 3 of these freeze-dried cheeses on this sandwich. And then I am actually going to put the guacamole, the reconstituted guacamole, on the bread. So now it's time to try our concoction. And cheese isn't John's favorite, but avocado definitely is. So we've mixed 3 of the cheeses in here, along with some, you can bite it, along with some rehydrated avocado. And it's on sourdough bread that we had made from our food storage. So that is a really good option. When you're just living off your food storage, you really appreciate things like cheese. So overall, the cheeses are one of the least expensive things to freeze dry. How much was it a batch?
Usually only just over $1 a batch to run the freeze dryer electrically.
So that's really good. Because it freeze dries very quickly, usually in less than a day. It's not as beautiful as it was originally once it's rehydrated, but it does rehydrate very well, and it'll stay for a week or so in the fridge. The bags of freeze-dried cheese with an oxygen absorber should last you in your food storage for between 5 and 10 years. So do I think freeze-dried cheese is worth it for your food storage? Absolutely, hands down, because for me, I am a cheese lover, and so having this in my food storage can make a huge difference.
And now for the question of the day. If you could freeze dry some cheese, which one would you freeze dry? Comment below. And thanks for being part of the solution.